Will the USA follow Rome's path to collapse? Picture this: the Colosseum stands in ruins, but once it was the heart of the most powerful empire the world had ever seen. Fast forward to today. Manhattan skyscrapers pierce the sky as symbols of American dominance. But here's the terrifying question that keeps historians awake at night. What if we're living through the moment that future historians will write about as the beginning of the end of the American empire? What if we're witnessing it right now and we're just too blind to see it? Today, we're diving deep into the chilling parallels between Rome's collapse and America's current trajectory. By the end of this video, you'll see warning signs that will make you question everything about America's future. And trust me, the similarities will absolutely terrify you. Before we go any further, smash that like button if you're ready to have your mind blown by history. Because what I'm about to show you follows a pattern so consistent, it's almost like a historical law of physics. Every great empire in history, Rome, Britain, Spain, the Mongols, they all followed the same 5-stage cycle. Stage 1, rapid military expansion and economic growth. Stage 2, peak dominance, where they controlled global trade and culture. Stage 3, overextension. They spend more maintaining their empire than they're getting back. Stage 4, internal crisis, political chaos, social division, corruption eating away at institutions. Stage 5, external threats exploit internal weakness. And finally, Stage 6, complete collapse and replacement by a new dominant power. Here's the scary part. The United States is currently sitting somewhere between stages 3 and 4. But this is just the beginning. The real nightmare starts when you see how closely America is following Rome's playbook.
Let's start with the most obvious parallel: financial overextension. Rome fell partly because it couldn't afford to maintain its massive military and bureaucracy. Romans thought that since they built roads, they were immortal. Sound familiar? America's national debt just hit $34 trillion. That's trillion with a T. To put that in perspective, if you spent $1 every second, it would take you over 1 million years to spend just 1 trillion. According to the Congressional Budget Office, this debt is growing faster than the economy itself. But here's where it gets really crazy. America spends more on defense than the next 10 countries combined. We're talking about maintaining over 800 military bases across 80 countries, from Germany to Guam, from Japan to Kuwait. That's more foreign bases than any empire in human history, including Rome at its peak. And it costs American taxpayers more than the entire healthcare systems of some countries. We're spending hundreds of billions to protect the world. But who's going to protect America from its own bridges collapsing into rivers?
The infrastructure reality check. The Pentagon's budget for 2024 was $842 billion. That's more than Russia's entire GDP. Meanwhile, American infrastructure is literally crumbling. The American Society of Civil Engineers gave U.S. infrastructure a C grade. According to a Brown University study, America has spent over $8 trillion on wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other conflicts since 2001. That's money that could have rebuilt America's roads, bridges, and schools twice over. Imagine if Rome had spent that much gold on roads instead of legions. Drop a comment below. Do you think America can afford to keep playing world police while its own house is falling apart? Because what comes next is even more disturbing: political division and social collapse. But financial problems were just the beginning for Rome. The real killer was political division and social chaos. And this is where the parallels with modern America become absolutely chilling. Late-stage Rome was torn apart by civil wars, competing factions, and a complete breakdown of political norms. senators literally murdered each other for power. Now, I'm not saying American politicians are murdering each other, but the political polarization is at levels not seen since the Civil War. According to Pew Research, the gap between Republicans and Democrats on key issues has doubled since 1994. We're talking about two completely different realities. A 2022 poll found that 40% of Americans believe civil war is at least somewhat likely in the next decade. That's not political disagreement, that's social disintegration. But this is only half the story. Now we get to the most dangerous part of the cycle:
the human cost of decay. Just like in Rome, American institutions are losing credibility fast. Gallup polling shows trust in Congress at just 21%, trust in the media at 32%, and trust in the Supreme Court has plummeted to 47%. But let me paint you a picture that brings this home. Imagine you're an American teenager in 2025. College costs as much as a house. Decent jobs are scarce. You're reading about China launching quantum satellites, and you're asking yourself, are we even still a superpower? In West Virginia, where schools and hospitals are closing, many people blame not just the economy, but the rotten system. This sounds exactly like the chronicles of late Rome. Income inequality is now at levels not seen since the Gilded Age. The top 1% controls 32% of all wealth. Hit that subscribe button if you're starting to see the pattern, because the Imperial paradox I'm about to reveal will blow your mind. The Imperial Overstretch paradox. Now, here's where things get really twisted. There's something historians call the Imperial Overstretch paradox, and it's exactly what destroyed Rome. And America is caught in the exact same trap. The paradox works like this. The harder an empire tries to maintain its dominance, the faster it actually loses it. Rome kept expanding its military and bureaucracy to control more territory, but each expansion cost more than it generated. Eventually, the empire was spending all its resources just trying to stay an empire. Take American sanctions, for example. The U.S. has imposed sanctions on 39 countries. That's over 20% of the world's nations. But instead of maintaining American dominance, these sanctions are actually accelerating the creation of alternative systems. It's like watching Rome push barbarian tribes to form alliances against the empire. Every time America tries to punish countries economically, they band together to create alternatives to American-dominated systems. The more force America uses to stay on top, the more resistance it creates.
The rise of the new barbarians. But Rome didn't fall to barbarians overnight. It fell because while Rome was busy fighting internal battles and draining its treasury, competitors were getting stronger and more organized. Today's barbarians wear suits and speak Mandarin. China's economy has grown from $1.2 trillion in 2000 to over $17 trillion today. That's faster economic growth than any nation in human history. According to the World Bank, China now produces more steel, concrete, and electricity than America and Europe combined. But here's the twist. What if China doesn't want to destroy America? What if they just want to outpace it, playing by completely different rules? While America argues about culture wars, China is winning the technology wars. They graduate 4.7 million STEM students per year, compared to America's 568,000. They're filing more patents, building more infrastructure, and investing more in renewable energy. Leave a comment. What happens if the US steps back from the world stage? Who fills the vacuum? China or complete chaos? America's unique advantages. Now, before you start building a bunker, let me be clear. America isn't Rome, and history doesn't repeat exactly. America has some unique advantages that Rome never had. First, America's economy is incredibly innovative and adaptive. Silicon Valley alone generates more wealth than most entire countries. American companies like Apple, Google, and Microsoft dominate global technology in ways Roman businesses never could. The question is, will innovation be enough to overcome imperial overstretch? Second, America's democratic system, for all its flaws, is designed to handle internal conflict without civil war. Rome's political system had no peaceful way to transfer power, which led to constant military coups. America has managed 59 peaceful transitions of power. Well, mostly peaceful. Third, America's cultural influence, Hollywood, music, social media, creates soft power that Rome could only dream of. But here's the question that keeps me up at night. Will these advantages be enough to break the historical pattern?
The point of no return. Because here's what historians have discovered. There's usually a point of no return for empires. A moment where the internal contradictions become so severe that collapse becomes inevitable. And this is where things get really scary. For Rome, most historians point to the crisis of the 3rd century, when the empire nearly collapsed from civil wars, plague, and economic chaos. The empire recovered temporarily, but it never regained its former strength. The Western Roman Empire fell just 2 centuries later. The terrifying question is, has America already passed its point of no return? Consider this. January 6, 2021, marked the first time in American history that a sitting president refused to accept election results and encouraged supporters to storm the Capitol. That's unprecedented in 245 years of American democracy. Meanwhile, American life expectancy is actually declining, something that typically only happens during wars or major health crises. Drug overdoses kill more Americans annually than the entire Vietnam War did over a decade. These are signs of deep social decay that mirror late Rome. And climate change adds a completely new variable that Rome never faced. The next decade will determine whether America finds a way forward or follows the path of every empire before it. The 3 paths forward. Smash that notification bell because what I'm about to tell you will determine America's fate. History suggests there are really only 3 options, and the window for choice might be closing fast. Option 1. Managed decline. Accept that the era of American hegemony is ending and focus on maintaining prosperity and security within realistic limits. This means reducing military commitments, fixing domestic problems, and sharing global leadership with other powers. Smart, but requires humility that empires rarely possess. Option 2. Internal renewal. Address the root causes of American dysfunction: inequality, polarization, institutional decay. This would require the kind of massive reforms that America accomplished during the New Deal or the Civil Rights era. Possible, but requires unity that currently doesn't exist. Option 3. Continue current path and hope for the best. But as we've seen, this is exactly what every falling empire chose, and it never ended well. The final warning. Here's what keeps me up at night. Empires don't usually collapse from external conquest. They collapse from internal decay, from losing the will and ability to solve their own problems. Rome wasn't destroyed by barbarians. It was destroyed by Romans. The barbarians just walked into the vacuum that Romans created. Romans who cared more about personal power than the empire's survival. Romans who thought that because they built roads and conquered lands, they were somehow immune to the laws of history. Today, America faces the same choice Rome faced. Can it overcome internal divisions and reform itself? Or will it tear itself apart while competitors grow stronger? The clock is ticking, and the warning signs are everywhere. But here's the most chilling part. History doesn't warn. It takes revenge on those who ignore it.
Remember how we started? The Colosseum in ruins? Manhattan's skyscrapers reaching for the sky? Manhattan isn't in ruins yet, but the Colosseum once gleamed with gold too. The question isn't whether America will face the same challenges as Rome. It already is. The question is whether America will learn from Rome's mistakes while there's still time. Will it reform, decline gracefully, or follow the same path to collapse? And if America doesn't wake up, the next chapter won't be written in Congress. It'll be written in the archives of whatever comes next. If this video opened your eyes to the parallels between Rome and America, hit that like button and let me know in the comments, do you think America can break the historical pattern, or is it destined to repeat Rome's fate? Subscribe and ring that notification bell because I'm working on a follow-up video about what a post-American world might actually look like, and the timeline might be shorter than you think. Stay curious, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.